Picture this. It's Christmas morning. While millions of people are unwrapping presents, drinking hot cocoa, and listening to festive music, there's someone out there treating it like a regular Tuesday. They're at the gym, catching up on work emails, or maybe just watching their usual shows. No decorations, no special meal, no celebration whatsoever. You might know someone like this. Or maybe you are someone like this. And if you are, you've probably heard it all. You're such a Grinch. Don't you have any holiday spirit? Or what's wrong with you? But here's the thing. There's actually fascinating psychology behind why some people genuinely don't care about holidays. And no, it's not always about being negative or contrarian. Today, we're diving deep into the minds of people who treat holidays as just another day on the calendar. First, let's clarify something important. Not caring about holidays exists on a spectrum. On one end, you have people who actively dislike holidays and find them stressful or annoying. On the other end, you have people who simply feel neutral. They don't hate holidays, but they don't get excited either. They're just indifferent. This distinction matters because the psychology behind active dislike versus simple indifference is quite different. Someone who dreads Christmas might have negative associations or traumatic memories. Someone who's merely indifferent might just not see the point or find meaning in cultural celebrations. Research in social psychology shows that our relationship with holidays is shaped by multiple factors: our childhood experiences, cultural background, personality traits, neurological makeup, and even our philosophical beliefs about meaning and tradition. It's also worth noting that this isn't a binary situation. Some people love certain holidays but couldn't care less about others. Maybe they go all out for Halloween but treat New Year's Eve like any other night. The selectivity itself tells us something interesting about what resonates with different individuals. Let's start with personality, because it plays a massive role. If you're familiar with the Big Five personality traits, you'll find some interesting correlations here. People who score low on extroversion, meaning they're more introverted, often find holidays exhausting rather than exciting. Holidays typically involve social obligations, large gatherings, small talk with relatives you barely know, and constant stimulation. For introverts, this isn't festive. It's draining. They might not hate the holiday itself, but they definitely don't love the social marathon that comes with it. Then there's the trait of openness to experience. Interestingly, this one cuts both ways. People with very high openness might reject traditional holidays because they find them conformist or superficial. They might prefer creating their own meaningful rituals rather than following society's prescribed celebrations. On the flip side, people with very low openness might stick to their established routines so rigidly that holidays feel like an unwelcome disruption. Conscientiousness also factors in. Highly conscientious people who are goal-oriented and productivity-focused might view holidays as obstacles to their objectives. Taking a day off when they could be working toward their goals creates genuine discomfort. For them, the concept of a day off feels wasteful rather than restful. And here's something fascinating. Research suggests that people with certain personality profiles might literally experience less dopamine release from anticipatory excitement. The build-up that makes holidays special for some people, the counting down, the planning, the anticipation, might not trigger the same neurochemical reward in others. Now, let's talk about where a lot of this starts. Childhood. Our early experiences with holidays create powerful neural pathways and emotional associations that last a lifetime. If you grew up in a household where holidays were genuinely joyful, filled with love, laughter, and positive memories, you're more likely to carry that enthusiasm into adulthood. But if holidays in your family were associated with conflict, financial stress, divorce, loss, or just going through the motions without authentic connection, those negative associations stick. Some people had childhoods where holidays simply weren't emphasized. Maybe they grew up in families that didn't celebrate for religious reasons, or immigrant families focused on survival rather than celebration, or households where parents were working multiple jobs and couldn't create the magic that other kids experienced. Without that foundational programming, the enthusiasm just isn't there. There's also the phenomenon of disillusionment. Many people who are indifferent to holidays did care about them as children, but somewhere along the way, the magic faded. Maybe they learned Santa wasn't real and felt betrayed. Maybe they realized holidays had become commercialized obligations rather than genuine celebrations. Maybe they experienced a significant loss during a holiday season and can't separate the two anymore. Cultural factors matter tremendously, too. In cultures where collectivism is emphasized, holidays as communal celebrations might feel more meaningful. In more individualistic cultures, some people might question why they should celebrate something just because society says so. They want to create their own meaning rather than inherit it. This brings us to something deeper: the search for meaning. Psychologists and philosophers have noted that we're living through what some call a meaning crisis, a time when traditional sources of meaning like religion, community, and shared cultural narratives are declining. For many people, holidays provided meaning precisely because they were religious observances or cultural traditions that connected them to something larger. But as organized religion has declined in many parts of the world, and as communities have become more fragmented, holidays can start to feel hollow. When you strip away the religious or deep cultural significance, what are you left with? For some people, the answer is not much. Just consumerism, obligation, and performance. Christmas becomes about buying stuff. Thanksgiving becomes about posting the perfect Instagram photo. New Year's becomes about making resolutions you won't keep. People who treat holidays as just another day might be responding to this hollowness. They're not necessarily rejecting celebration or meaning. They're rejecting what feels like empty ritual. They'd rather skip the performance and either find meaning elsewhere or create their own authentic celebrations that actually resonate with their values. Existential psychology tells us that humans need to feel that their actions and experiences are meaningful. If holidays don't provide that sense of meaning, there's no psychological payoff for participating. It's like being asked to get excited about something that feels arbitrary and forced. We also need to talk about neurodivergence, because this is a factor that doesn't get discussed enough. People with ADHD, autism, or other neurological differences often have complicated relationships with holidays. For autistic individuals, holidays can be overwhelming sensory experiences. The music, lights, crowds, disrupted routines, and social demands can trigger genuine distress. What seems like not caring might actually be self-protection against overstimulation. People with ADHD might struggle with the executive function demands of holidays: the planning, shopping, cooking, coordinating schedules, the expectation to be enthusiastic about something that causes them significant stress creates a negative association. Additionally, some neurodivergent people think very literally and logically. The arbitrary nature of holidays, we celebrate this because our ancestors decided we should, might not compute as a valid reason to alter their routine or invest emotional energy. There's also something called alexithymia, which is difficulty identifying and expressing emotions. People with this trait might not experience the warm, fuzzy feelings that holidays are supposed to evoke, making the whole thing feel pointless. Let's get philosophical for a moment. How we think about time itself influences how we relate to holidays. Some people view time as cyclical. Seasons turn, years repeat, and holidays mark meaningful points in that cycle. For them, celebrating the winter solstice or the new year connects them to ancient human patterns and natural rhythms. There's comfort and meaning in that repetition. But other people view time as linear and non-repeating. Every day is unique, and marking certain days as special feels arbitrary. Why is December 25th more important than December 24th or 26th? The date is just a social construct. This relates to different philosophical approaches to ritual. Anthropologists note that rituals serve important social and psychological functions. They create shared experiences, mark transitions, and provide structure. But not everyone finds value in ritual. Some people are more spontaneous, preferring authentic moments over scheduled celebrations. There's also the distinction between external and internal locus of control. People with a strong internal locus of control believe they create their own meaning and determine what's important in their lives. They might resist holidays because they feel like external impositions, society telling them when to be happy, when to be grateful, when to celebrate. Here's something that makes holiday indifference even more complicated: the social pressure to perform enthusiasm. Society doesn't just celebrate holidays. It expects you to celebrate them, and to do so in specific ways. You're not just supposed to acknowledge Christmas. You're supposed to decorate, bake cookies, send cards, attend parties, buy gifts, and radiate joy. The performance is exhausting, especially if you don't feel it authentically. Social media has amplified this exponentially. Now you're not just performing for your family and friends in person, you're performing for hundreds or thousands of people online. The pressure to document your perfect holiday, to prove you're having the required amount of fun, can turn celebration into anxiety. For people who already feel indifferent, this pressure can turn indifference into active resentment. It's the difference between not caring about something and being forced to pretend you care about it. The latter is much more unpleasant. There's also the phenomenon of compulsory happiness. During holidays, you're expected to be happy, even if you're going through a difficult time. Lost your job? Struggling with depression? Grieving a loss? Too bad. It's Christmas, so smile. This toxic positivity makes holidays feel alienating for people dealing with real struggles. Some people who treat holidays as just another day are actually protecting their authenticity. They'd rather be honest about their feelings than fake enthusiasm for social acceptance. We can't ignore the economic dimension. Modern holidays, especially in Western cultures, have become heavily commercialized. The average American spends over $1,000 on Christmas alone. For people who are financially stressed, holidays are a source of anxiety rather than joy. They feel pressure to buy gifts they can't afford, to create experiences that are beyond their means. The inequality becomes glaringly obvious when everyone's comparing their celebrations. Some people opt out of this entirely, not because they lack holiday spirit, but because they reject the consumerism. They see through the marketing, the manufactured needs, the waste. Treating holidays as regular days becomes an ethical stance against overconsumption. There's also growing awareness of the environmental impact of holiday celebrations. The gift wrap waste, the disposable decorations, the carbon footprint of shipping millions of packages. Some people's indifference to holidays is actually a form of environmentalism. And let's talk about labor. Many people have to work on holidays: healthcare workers, emergency services, retail employees, service industry workers. For them, holidays aren't days of rest and celebration. They're just work days, often with the added insult of seeing everyone else celebrate. Over time, this creates a psychological disconnect from the holiday entirely. Here's something interesting that often gets overlooked. For many people, not caring about holidays is actually liberating. Think about it. If you're not beholden to holiday expectations, you have complete freedom over your time, money, and energy during those periods. You can travel when flights are cheaper because you're not going during holiday peaks. You can pursue your passions without feeling guilty about missing celebrations. You can opt out of family drama and obligation. There's a certain power in saying, "This doesn't matter to me," especially in a society that insists it should matter. It's an act of self-determination, of defining your own values rather than accepting prescribed ones. Many people who treat holidays as regular days report feeling less stress.